Hi, I'm the Human Floyd, and this is the final part of Role-Playing in MMOs, a Beginner's Guide. In the previous videos, I explained what RP is and how to do it. Now that you have a basic understanding of the MMO roleplay world, we're going to talk about turning your roleplay into an ongoing story and getting more involved in the community. A hub is a common gathering place for roleplayers. Usually this is a popular tavern or one of the major cities in a game. To find out where the roleplay hubs are in your chosen game, you can ask around in Zone Chat or check the forums. The video description has a link to a list of RP forums for various games. Once you've located an active RP hub, the first thing you want to do is walk. Walking shows other players that you are in character and seeking roleplay. New RPers often acclimate themselves by finding a corner and sitting there to observe. The fast-paced chat scroll in popular RP hubs can be hard to keep up with at times, and it's intimidating for many to be in a room full of strangers who all seem to know one another, even on the internet. If you do feel this way, there's nothing wrong with spending some time watching RP and getting familiar with the scene. That said, at some point you'll have to jump in and start engaging. Otherwise, you may never actually get to roleplay. An easy way to do this is to simply write out what your character is doing. You might have a character who isn't very talkative or social, but that doesn't mean you can't describe things like how they're sitting, what their facial expressions might be, or what they're doing with their hands. It's also not a bad idea to use a character who is more open and social for some of your first RP. That way, you have an excuse to immediately get involved in anything that's going on. My troll character in World of Warcraft is being a nuisance as usual. I play him as a mischievous loudmouth who often meddles in the affairs of others. A gnarly orc walks in with a demonic cultist in tow, killing him in the middle of the tavern. My troll and his newly made friend become interested and follow the orc as he reports to his superior officer. Soon the trolls and a blood elf are drafted into the quest, and a new RP adventure begins. RP hubs are great because you can meet other roleplayers, make connections, develop your character, and hone your writing skills in a much more casual environment. If you follow through with Hub RP, you may find yourself on an adventure you weren't expecting. One of the major pros about MMO roleplay is how large the pool of other creative people is that you're diving into. With so many ideas and layers upon layers of story, the RP world sort of takes on a life of its own. No one person is choosing what happens, and everyone's input has some kind of influence. Often you'll find your character in situations you never thought they'd be in, or you'll find that they've steadily become a very different person than you first imagined them to be. Our friends in the Ebon Vanguard are searching for their missing leader, Servato. They've looked through the whole town, all except for this lonely graveyard. As they approach, there is a monk sitting in prayer. He claims not to have seen anyone in the area, but one of our heroes spots a dead body hidden behind a tombstone. The monk attacks, and a battle begins. By allowing the actions of other characters to influence your own, you'll find many more opportunities for interesting stories and developments. That element of randomness doesn't always end up in an amazing story, but when it does, it's that much more impressive because it's the result of the in-character actions of a group of roleplayers, rather than the planning of a single storyteller. Chance can be applied in other ways too. Many players will use dice or online dice rollers to determine whether or not their character succeeds at something. For example, these drunken sailors and scallywags are brawling for gold. A mediator is using dice rolls to determine whether or not their punches land. After 3 hits, a victor is announced. Using dice rolls in this way makes it so that your character's successes are that much more meaningful, as are their failures. It's good to remember that something bad happening to your character is not the same as something bad happening to you. These roleplayers in the Rift Guild Perennial Flame are exploring a ruin deep in the jungle. They try to cross a corridor, only to have the floor fall out from beneath them. While their characters might not enjoy this, the players now have an interesting and unexpected challenge to overcome. Plus, their characters now have a shared experience, which can bring them closer together. This one doesn't need much explaining, as it's something that will happen to you naturally as you RP. If you've been paying attention, by now you've learned that roleplayers do everything we can to make our stories realistic, even when they take place in fantastic settings like these. Perhaps the main reason for this is that RP can be a useful tool to look into the psychology of the human mind, or the underlying factors that influence our societies. By playing a character who is every bit as lifelike as you are, you learn many things about yourself and people in general. Over time, characters will develop nuanced relationships with one another if played realistically. Just like real people, good RP characters will have those they love and those they can't stand. They'll have arguments with people they care about, and times when they begrudgingly agree with those they're opposed to. When you're role-playing with another person, take the time to consider what your character thinks about their peers. How does she feel about them? In what ways does she judge them, or look up to them? By building relationships with other characters, you'll find more and more hooks to get involved in plots and interesting situations. Often, the group dynamics in RP will be a story of their own. This is one of the ways unexpected things can happen. Seeing 2 RP guilds who are both very tight-knit meet each other for the first time is incredibly fascinating. You never know who will get along with who, and you get a glimpse into the life of an entirely different culture. Virtually every MMO has a guild function, which allows players to form organizations within the game. For roleplayers, these guilds are usually in-character groups, such as noble houses, military units, mercenary bands, tribes, gangs, pirate crews, religious groups, or anything else. Guild chat is a function which allows players in the same guild to communicate with one another, usually out of character. Since every roleplay guild has its own backstory, themes, and style of RP, it can be difficult to find the perfect guild for both you and your character. For example, while I really get along with my friends in the Hammer of Atmora, none of my characters would have a reason to join their guild. Some people solve this by creating a character specifically to suit a guild they like. This is a great way to get involved, and I encourage it, but not everyone wants to start a brand new character just for the sake of joining a certain guild. Every RP forum has a section where you can look for guilds who are recruiting. This is a good way to scope out what your options are and find something that interests you. Usually you can post on the recruitment thread saying you're curious, and they'll get a hold of you. Most recruitment posts also have a list of people you can contact about joining. If you're looking for a more natural approach, many roleplayers will wait to join a guild until they come across one that interests them through roleplay. There's no need to rush finding a group of players that suits your playstyle and character. The Ebon Vanguard is preparing to explore a ruin of their own. This one, however, is guarded by a door they don't know how to bypass. Ramuq was sitting in the RP hub waiting for just such an opportunity. His character is an expert in Asuran technology, and he offers to help get past the door. The group agrees to bring him along, and they head out. Later, Ramuq was invited to join the Ebon Vanguard in character. By participating in their event, Ramuq's character has a realistic reason to join, and the story progressed in a more interesting way than it might have had he just contacted the leader's OOC and requested to join. RP events are usually put on by guilds and advertised on forums. Guilds will also host private events for their members and friends only, but right now we're talking about public RP events like this big battle in the Elder Scrolls Online. Events come in many forms. The most popular are parties or festivals, but you also see battles, competitions, and storyline events, which we'll talk about next. The key to enjoying these gatherings is to engage at every opportunity. It isn't every day you get to see so many RPers show up in one place, often from far-flung corners of the game. Take the time to meet someone new or keep an ear open for any plots you might want to get involved in. Storylines, or RP plots, are overarching tales that take place over a longer period of time than a single event. Some storylines are a week long, others can span for months or even years. They usually involve a lot of work on the part of the people running them. These people are referred to as DMs or GMs. That's Dungeon Master or Game Master respectively. These creative people have the challenging task of coming up with a compelling story for their friends to get involved in and making that story happen. DMs are usually given the right to influence the environment and characters more than the regular player. They will often narrate for scenes and describe the actions of secondary and background characters. If RP is a movie, then the DMs are the directors, extras, and usually the villains. The perennial flame has reached the central chamber of the ruin. This artifact is one they must retrieve in order to complete a series of challenges which has taken them on a journey throughout time. Storylines are often where the most dramatic and intense roleplay takes place. In many ways, a good storyline is like a novel with a beginning, middle, and end. Most people find that the ending of a storyline can be just as thrilling and even more engaging than the climax of an epic movie trilogy. So now what? After the storyline is finished, what happens? The beautiful thing about MMO roleplay is that the story is never really over as long as there's interest in it. You can keep roleplaying as the same character for years and years if you want to, watching them grow and change as time goes by and your skills as a writer increase. But just roleplaying isn't enough for some of us. After all, these amazing storylines and guilds have to come from someone, don't they? When I see people complain that they can't find any good roleplay, I honestly don't feel much sympathy for them. Some people will go on and on about how they can't find anything interesting for their character to get involved in. You'll notice these same people are never the ones who are helping make RP happen. This might seem daunting, But perpetuating roleplay isn't as hard as it sounds. Just like my troll being an annoying pest in WoW, or that Asura offering to help the Ebon Vanguard, RP happens when someone takes initiative. To take it a step further, you could even start your own storyline. This takes a lot more work, but a well-executed story can be incredibly fulfilling for both you and the players involved in it. One day in the future, I'd like to do a series on DMing in MMOs. Check out the link on the screen for more info on that and other future projects. You're also invited to rphq.org, the roleplay headquarters. It's a new site that I founded, which serves as a gathering place of ideas, information, and inspiration for all types of RPers. Role-playing is a niche hobby, there's no doubt about that. But when you really start to dive into it, you realize that there's no shortage of creative people who are looking to explore their humanity through the lens of a character they've handcrafted. Like Dungeons & Dragons before it, MMO roleplay is steadily becoming more popular. This means more characters to interact with, a wider variety of settings to choose from, and lots of stories to get involved in. There's nothing I can say or show you in a video that will describe the pure joy of finding yourself lost in a world so vast and complex that you almost forget it's not real for an hour or two. One day, I hope everyone will get a chance to experience that feeling. Until then, keep role-playing. Peace.